Hello everyone, I'm Wendy Liu. Today, I would like to talk about e-business transformation. E-business transformation means you would like to transform your traditional small, medium-sized enterprise into e-business. And in this course, I would like to share some of our experience in Taiwan. Before we talk about e-business transformation, let's talk something about the ICT technology. The ICT technology stands for Information Communication Technology. ICT technology is the technology behind the internet. There are technologies related to the computing, networking, and mobile communications. So maybe lots of you may think that, well, internet or mobile phone, those kind of things won't have too much effect on your business or my business. Because, your business has nothing to do with the internet. Well, maybe you were right, but it doesn't mean internet won't have any effect on your business at all. Let me try to make an example here. You see, when I was kids, my mom had a problem. She always tried to find out where is my dad. So, she always made me to make phone call. And after I dial the number, I always ask, is Mr. Liu still there? But 20 years later, my wife has a quite similar problem. She always wants to find out where I am. So what happened was she made my daughter to make the phone call. Again, my daughter will dial the number, but now she always said, Dad, where are you? So, what have made the difference? Well, because in the old days, I dialed the telephone number, which the telephone number I was dialing to a specific location, which I was not sure my dad was there or not. But now, my daughter is actually dialing my cellular phone number. So the first person who had answered the phone is always being me, her dad. So the problem is where I am, not am I still there? Well, a good news or a bad news for you is that in the near future, your wives will probably make a phone call and directly ask you, why are you there? Because nowadays, your smartphone equipped a GPS sensor to locate where you are. So with the help of the technology, it's very easy for wives to track where their husbands are. So that is ICT technology. ICT technology changed a lot of different things. Let me make another example. Well, how many people still remember your family member's telephone number? But in the old days, everybody memorized others' telephone number. But now, all we need to do is select it from the cellular phone and push the button. And it will make the phone call for you. Here, the ICT technology is the reason that why you no longer memorize those telephone numbers. So remember, the ICT technology not only make changes to those who make use of them. Well, the ICT technology actually can change the way you're doing business even though you are not using any ICTs in your business conduct at all. So with the ICT technology and internet, your business will be no longer as usual. They will make a lot of changes in the past in Taiwan. For example, a bike shop was operated by people who know how to repair your bike. But now, most of the bike shops in Taiwan are operated by people who himself is a biker. So even though the bike shop may never use or doing any business on the internet, they have been affected by the internet or those ICT technology. On today's internet era, we are really frog in the heating water. We have to take action so that we may survive, or maybe we can even more prosper in the future. Let's make another example. Now in Taiwan, selling a CD record already hit its historical low. According to our statistic, more than 70% CD sale had disappeared. I think we used to sell more than 3 million CD per year. But now, it's just a little bit more than 1 million only. So people who are selling CD are very, very worried about it. But there is a weird thing in it. Because even though the CD sale has dropped so shockingly, it is very interesting to know that, nowadays, no one in Taiwan still using any CD player. We no longer buy a CD in order to listen to the music, So the real problem is not the sales had dropped sharply. The real problem is why those people are still buying CDs. Obviously, Taiwanese no longer use those CDs to play music. They don't need to. Now they can download the file in the internet, and they will listen to the music in a digital file format. So as it turned out, people in Taiwan still buy CD, not because they want to listen to the music inside it. They are still buying CD because they are actually buying souvenirs. That is why now in Taiwan, more and more singers try to make their CD more like a souvenir and set up a website that fans can now listen to their music for free. So the impact of internet and ICT technology are not only their direct impact. They can have impact on an ecosystem and will create a chain reaction to impact everyone on the system. E-business transformation has happened in Taiwan about 20 years ago. Let's go back to the old Taiwan 20 years ago and look at how those small and medium-sized enterprises operated in Taiwan. You will recognize that most of the small and medium-sized enterprises 20 years ago, they are usually a Me Too enterprise. For example, you are operating a bakery. Then your bakery is probably quite similar to another bakery which is located in another town or another village or another community. So you provide exactly the same product from customer point of view. But since you are the only bakery in this community, so everybody in the community has to go to your bakery and buy your bread. A Me Too enterprises, we call it the business 1.0, is actually protected by geographic barriers. So for a bakery's owner, the only thing they always try to do is keep competitor away from them. The best situation for you is your bakery is the only bakery in the community. If there are more than one bakery in your community, then there will be competition, and for a Me Too enterprise, that's really a terrible situation. But 20 years later, we are using internet for more than 20 years already. So let's look at our business 2.0 here in Taiwan. Well, now with the impact of internet, most of small and medium-sized enterprises in Taiwan have to be unique to survive in today's Taiwan. That is why we call them the Business 2.0. The Business 2.0 small and medium-sized enterprises are protected by its competence or resources. So if now you visit any bakery in Taiwan, you will realize that they all try to make themselves as different as possible. They are trying to deliver unique products, different kind of bread, or unique service, or something like that. They try to make themselves different from their competitors. So why do they want to do that? Well, one of the reasons is because of the internet. If you need bread, and ordinary bread, you can go to the net and go to supermarket and get it quite easy. So now in Taiwan, if you want to make your small bakery to survive, the only thing you can do is try to find out the uniqueness that your competitor or your competence or your resources can do the best. Then you can put your unique products on the internet. And a lot of people who are not located in your community, in your small village, through the internet, now can become your customer. So every small and medium-sized enterprise have to remember this. Unless you can successfully transform yourself, things can be terrible to you if you are still a business 1.0, a Me Too enterprise. So now you own a bakery and you try to sell your cakes on the internet. So what should you do? Maybe you would like to talk about how delicious your cake is. But the problem is, on the internet, you probably have more than 100 or even 1,000 bakeries who want to sell their cake, and all of them will say their cake are delicious. So how can you sell your cake if your customer can buy cakes from 1,000 bakeries who all are selling delicious cake? So let's see the video and you will know how this gentleman successfully sell his cake on the internet in Taiwan. So, you see, to sell a delicious cake on the internet is very difficult. It's difficult because the delicious cake is not unique on the net. So this gentleman decided he would like to make his cake not only delicious, but also funny and a little bit interesting. Because his unbreakable cake is funny, and that make it very unique on the internet. So now, people will recognize it from those 1,000 bakeries and are happy to buy the cake from him. Now, Mr. Huang, his bakery had become one of the most successful internet bakery in Taiwan. The key issue is that if you are a business 1.0, since you operate in a Me Too manners, so probably you will not take a lot of time to think about the value you provide to your customer. If you are selling umbrella, you never think why people want to buy umbrella from you instead of others. Because you know that people need to buy umbrella since you are the only shop nearby, so customer go to buy umbrella from you anyway. But when you go to the internet, even though you are selling exactly the same umbrella, you should know that the value you want to provide for your customer can be dramatically different. In Taiwan, for traditional umbrella shop, people would like to buy umbrella if it is raining. But when people are surfing the internet, they don't need umbrella when it's raining. So they would like to buy umbrella only because the value provided by your umbrella is different from when you sell through traditional shop. People have to know the story behind your umbrella. And when they feel that it satisfies their needs, they will place an order on the internet and buy your umbrella. So you have to redefine your value proposition when you go to internet. The things you provide to your customer will never be an umbrella only. Your umbrella satisfies users' specific value, and the value can be dramatically different between your traditional shop and your internet shop. Traditionally, most of the business tend to define themselves based on the kind of products they produced or the kind of service they provide. But nowadays, it may not be a good idea, because the right way to define your business is from your customer's point of view. And when you define your business based on customer's point of view, you will realize that your customer doesn't need your products or your service. What they need is value that can be created when they buy your product or use your service. Let me remind you that ladies never ever buy any cosmetics. They are actually buying the value provided by the cosmetics. That is their beauty and youthhood, or maybe for some ladies, probably they are trying to buy loves from their husbands. So your business is actually the implementation of the value proposition by providing your products. So when customer can recognize and need the value provided by your products or your service, then they will more than happy to do business with you. If you never redefine your value proposition and you are doing your business just as usual, most of businessmen will recognize internet as a threat to their business. But here, let me show you a case study from Taiwan to demonstrate how a company can transform the threat of the internet into great opportunity for itself, and eventually make a great success story in Taiwan. The case is about S-Light Bookstore. S-Light Bookstore is actually the biggest bookstore in the world. So next time, if you have the opportunity to visit Taiwan, my advice is it will be a great idea to visit this great giant bookstore in Taipei. Well, when you first visit S-Light Bookstore, you will recognize that, hey, it's very different from the traditional bookstore. In a traditional bookstore, well, they try to pack as many books as possible. But in S-Light, they usually has plenty of rooms, and they will display less books compared to traditional bookstore. Traditional bookshops try to sell their books in a discount price, but S-Light Bookstore rarely discount anything. In a traditional bookstore, they try to sell their books So they usually won't like the customer to read their books on the bookstore. But S-Light always have prepared some chairs in their bookstore. So when you are trying to read the books, you can find yourself a chair in S-Light and sit down, relax, and read their books. And most of bookstores, because the profit margin is low, they usually locate in some remote district. But S-Light bookstore usually locate in district that is considered too expensive for a bookstore to survive. So you see, S-Light is actually selling expensive books located in more expensive location, and they allow you to read the books for free. And still, S-Light is the most profitable chain bookstore in Taiwan. How's this possible? What are the reasons behind? So, what makes the difference between S-Light and the traditional bookstore? The secret behind S-Light bookstore is like this. Well, 10 years ago, all bookstore was traditional bookstore. And then one thing had happened. That is the appearance of the internet bookstore, which is, like Amazon.com. So now, no matter how much discount you can offer, the internet bookstore can have even lower discount compared to traditional bookstore. Because in their business model, they don't need to stock any inventory. And if you try to provide many different kind of books, well, still, you cannot compete with internet bookstore because again, the internet bookstore doesn't need to stock any inventory. So they can sell almost any kind of books, as many as possible. So it is impossible for a traditional bookstore to compete with those internet bookstore. So it is quite obviously that when traditional bookstore try to compete in this internet era, first they will have to realize that if they still follow the same way of doing business, they will never survive. So what happened was that S-Light redefined their value proposition. You see, traditional bookstores believe their value come from selling books because people need books and they are booksellers. Well, there is another value that can be created by bookstore, a physical bookstore, like the S-Light. When you try to find an elegant way to spend your time on one afternoon, for example, I believe that you will agree that it is a great idea for you to walk into a bookstore like S-Light and enjoy 1 or 2 hours in the bookstore and read any books that you want to read. And after that, before you leave the bookstore and back to your office or go home, obviously you will find some books that are quite interesting to you, but you don't have enough time to finish reading it. So what will you do? Well, here, most of the Taiwanese decide that they are going to buy those books and take the books home to finish them. Even though S-Light is more expensive, well, anyway, you want that books. You want to finish that books quite at that moment. So the price is not that important, right? So that's why S-Light can compete with internet bookstores. And by transforming the value proposition, S-Light become the most successful business in book selling business. Because S-Light do not believe in traditional way of doing business. They knew that in order to survive and prosper on this internet era, they will need to transform their value proposition first. So you see, define your value proposition is quite important. And actually, it is a must for any company which intended to go to internet. So let's review our case, the S-Light bookstore. Traditionally, for bookstores' value proposition, they will say, we are booksellers. So they are simply a distribution channel for book publishers. And then Mr. Wu, who is the founders of S-Light, realized that the environment for bookstore has been changed after internet bookstore has get into the book selling business. So he decided he was going to transform and create a different value proposition for his customers. So in S-Light bookstore, he said, our value proposition works like this. Yes, we sell books, but we also provide relaxation in an elegant but cheaper way. So for ladies or gentlemen who want to have relaxations, well, they can go to other places, but usually these places are not so elegant and cost you much, much more than the S-Light. But go to a bookstore and read some books are elegant and compared to other way of relax, it's far more cheaper. So the S-Light bookstore, the definition of their value proposition actually changed the way they do business. So they don't need too many books on their shops, but they will have to provide chairs to their customer and encouraging them to read their books. By providing the correct business model, now their bookstore can deliver the core value proposition, that is, selling books and providing relaxations. Then customers have recognized its new value. And since customers tend to like it, so S-Light bookstore can effectively compete with both the internet bookstore and other traditional bookstores, even though its books are more expensive, even though it have to pay higher rent for their physical shop. Still, in this internet era, S-Light bookstore can be prosper and become the most profitable chained bookstore in Taiwan. In this course, we talk about value proposition. At last, I would like to emphasize the importance of uniqueness for conducting e-business on the internet. The importance of uniqueness can only be created by defining your new value proposition. You have to provide some values which are so unique that can be appreciated by your customer. And when your business can be prospering on internet, in another word, value proposition should be the cornerstone of your e-business conduct. So thank you for your listening. We will go through the next section to talk about how you can implement those value propositions through your business model. Thank you.